Welcome to Real Talk with LaShondra. This is a series about entrepreneurship, leadership, and success I have learned throughout my journey in the construction industry. I'm LaShondra Mercurius, and I have been working in all of these spaces for over 15 years now. I will be sharing my thoughts and experiences about all the topics and also having conversations with amazing guests who navigate those spaces on a daily basis. Welcome back, everyone, to Real Talk with LaShondra. I'm so happy to be here with you, sharing all my crazy thoughts. Today, I'm really excited about this topic because this is a fun one, and I think everyone could relate to this one. So, do you know people around you who are always on, always present, and who have success no matter what they do? Now, if you do, give me their name and number because I want to be around them. And do you ever wonder how it's possible that they never run out of fuel? They always have stamina and they keep pushing forward. Well, let me tell you this. These are not superhumans, believe it or not. They are just people who have what's called drive. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, drive. What is it? How do you get it? How do you keep it? That's really the key. I'll share some of my stories, inspirations, and to keep it real, I'll also talk about some times when I burnt the hell out and had to find new inspiration to keep that drive flame burning. So let's dive right in. So I'll tell you what drive means to me. Drive is that constant search for purpose, trying to figure out what lane I'm supposed to be in, what I'm supposed to do next, what I'm supposed to learn next, and how I'm supposed to get there. And I use that drive and inspiration to fuel me for all the things that I'm doing and still trying to do. And people can be driven by many different things. But the key is having something that you're trying to obtain that is, better than where you are, bigger than who you are at this present time. So what inspires my drive? I mean, there's a laundry list of things that inspire my drive. But I think the number one thing I can say that inspires me is reaching my full potential. From a very young age, I always felt like I was going to do something great. I didn't know exactly what it was. I think when I was a kid, I dreamed about being a movie star, being an actress, until I figured out that I get stage fright, so that didn't work out. I thought about being a doctor, except that I faint at the sight of blood, so that didn't work out. Now I'm here doing a podcast, so who would have known that? But the interesting thing is I always knew that there was something more out there for me. And every time I accomplish something or I finish or hit a goal, it never really feels like it's enough. So that's one thing that drives me. But the other thing is, my family. I have 3 kids, 26, 23, and 8. Except 8, he's more like 55 in an 8-year-old body. But I digress. They drive me because I'm driven. I had to pause there because I get a little emotional whenever I talk about my babies. My drive to do great things in life is really about them. I want to be the example, for them. And I think that a lot of young people don't have that. And so when I think about my kids and I think about all the great things that they're going to do, I want them to have resources. I want them to have an example. And I just don't want to leave that up to chance. And I'm pretty sure there may be other inspiring people in their lives. But at the end of the day, if no one else gives a damn, I want them to know that, mommy gives a damn. And all you need to know is right here with me. So that's a huge drive for me. But especially my daughter, I want her, to understand that she has power. She's strong. She's beautiful. She can do anything, and that really drives me to do better and to show that, an African American woman can achieve, can do great things. And my little one, he's good, man. He inspires me. That guy is pretty amazing. But my job with him is just to love him up. Just to love him up and let him know that I'm here for him. So that's a huge drive for me. But the other drive that I have, and now we're going to get into like the real talk is I'm ultra competitive. I do not like to lose. So I want to win and I want to crush any obstacle that comes in my way. Because every time I overcome an obstacle, every time someone tells me no, every time someone tells me you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, or you're not this or that enough, that drives me to want to say, screw you. I'm going to do it anyway. So for me, those are the things that drive me. I'm driven by the love and passion that I have for my husband and wanting to make sure that I don't embarrass him, that, he can show up and have, a classy, sexy, bougie, crazy woman on his arm, and making sure that I'm supporting him, on his goals and his dreams. So for me, it's all about, family. It's all about just every day waking up and seeing how I can be better for all of them. And especially for myself. I want to see what I can do in this lifetime. So those are all the things that drive me. What drives you? So now let's get into how I've utilized drive. As you guys all know, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in business for about 10 years. And I want to say when I first started the business or even thought about starting the business, it was in the downturn of the economy back in 2009, 2010. And the first thing that I would hear was, well, why? You have a 6-figure job. Why do you want to start a business? And I think the very first person that I shared my idea with about starting the business, the first thing that person said to me is, well, what about your back end? Do you even know how to run a business? It was very discouraging. And that drive and that need to be better and to overcome the naysayers is what propelled me forward. I think I woke up one day after contemplating whether I was going to do this or not. And in a split moment, I said, you know what? I really don't have a choice. Because if I don't do this, then there's no way that I'm going to reach my full potential. This is destined for me. And so I bundled up all of those no's, all of those, are you sure? All of those, are you crazy? I bundled it up and I use it as fuel. I use it as the drive to say, you know what? I'm going to do this. And not only am I going to do this, I'm going to succeed. And sure enough, that's been the case so far. So I remember when we first started the business and, we were out there, trying to get our first orders and everything. And, that level of drive that I had, I would die to get an order and to make sure that we did it right. I remember our first project was the I-405 project. We were probably the last recruiting consulting firm to get on that project. And I remember being in the meeting, with the person in charge. And, her thing was, I got 11 other firms, that are doing something similar to you. What makes you different? Why should I give you an opportunity? And what I told her was, I'm willing to die to make sure that I fill the order and find the right person. So I don't know who on this earth can say no to that. So she didn't really have a choice. She gave me an opportunity that was a maybe. It was kind of an obscure position, kind of like a purple squirrel. That's what we call them in our industry, when they're positions that are really, really difficult to find and it's not likely. But that drive and that perseverance to make sure to capitalize on this opportunity, was there, in such that not only did I find her one purple squirrel, we end up finding 3 of those purple squirrels throughout the project. So that was super cool. And that was the first project for us that turned into $1 million project. So that's a great example of what drive can do for you, because you don't know what's on the other side of that drive, right? You always want to make sure that you're driving straight through those obstacles, because that's where the sweet spot is. That's where the prize is. And I mean, there's countless number of examples that I can give you of just having the drive to want to be successful. Because listen, guys, whatever you put out into the universe is what you're going to get back. And if you don't have drive, then you're not going to know what to ask the universe for, And what I asked for in that moment was the patience, the perseverance to make sure that I got the job done. And as long as I had that going for me, I knew I could do it again and again and again. And that's how drive works for me. Another example of drive and just being relentless in being better and being excellent. We had an opportunity to work, on a project. And I remember this particular company said, well, we can't use you because we've already filled our quota for this project. And I thought, really? You don't say. So I went to the project ownership and I said, hey, I have a solution for your project. And they had a program. It was a JLTP program, which is on the job training program. And this particular contractor had to fill a quota for that, but they didn't know how they were going to do it. They were still putting ads out in the paper. And so again, with that drive, I was competitive. They told me no. They said, hey, we already got our minority quota. But what I did, I went to the project owner and I said, hey, I have a whole program and system of how to fulfill that JLTP program. Will you allow the contractor, a third party, to come in and do that for them? And they said, hey, absolutely, as long as they get it done. So I went back to that same project manager, rolled out my proposal, and I said, you have to do this. And you don't have anybody to do this for you. I know you filled your quota, but I also see that you have an ad out in the paper. And they looked at me, and then I looked at him, and then he looked at me again, and then I looked at him again. And he said, you know what? You got the job. And that turned into another $1 million contract. See how that works? It's all about drive. When you are in business and you're an entrepreneur, you cannot take no for an answer. See, the way that I think about no is just one step closer to a yes, because you have to build trust. You have to be willing to go to your edge to make it happen. And that's what drive is all about. It's willing to go as close to failure as possible to figure out how far you can go. And that's how you understand what your potential is on this planet. We should all be pushing as close to failure as possible. And don't be scared of it, because sometimes we have to fail to win. And when you do fail and you pick yourself up, that's where drive kicks in to high gear to get you back on that horse and make sure that you are continuing to push yourself to your limits, because that's where the gold is, and that's where you're going to have your greatest amount of success. But having an extreme amount of drive is great, is wonderful. Hallelujah. But it doesn't come without consequences. If you do not understand how to harness your drive, it's very easy and likely that you are going to burn out. And that is exactly what happened to me. So as much, stuff as I talk about having drive and having success and not taking no for an answer and doing all these things, getting these $1 million contracts, which is great. It's all well and good. But if you don't allow yourself time to rejuvenate, to rest, regenerate, to clear your mind, you're going to burn out. And I tell you, I've been doing this industry for over 10 years now, and every day has been a grind. It's been a grind. It's been a push. I've enjoyed every second of it, the ups, the downs, all of it. But when you get to the point of burnout, it's rough. And for me, it actually required me to step away from my business for almost an entire year because of the burnout. Because when you are in leadership and you don't show up your full self, everybody around you feels that. And I got to a point where I was just burnt out. I didn't have the patience. I wasn't being a great leader. I wasn't showing up with good energy, and it was felt by my team. It was like I was coming in and it was like killing an ant with a hammer. It was just too much. And I think as leaders and entrepreneurs and managers, we have to know when we need to step away and take a break. And I want to say at the beginning of 2020 was my break. I said, you know what? I'm not 100% right now. I can't be an effective leader for my team. So I took a step back. Now, lucky for me, I had an awesome, staff that supported that. My husband, stepped up and took on a lot. My partner, Carolina, stepped up and took on a lot, as well as others in the company. So I was very blessed, but it sure was an ego killer, to be able to admit to myself that, I wasn't the best person for the job at that point in time. But stepping away allowed me to really think about, who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up. It gave me time to rest. It gave me time to reflect and really just focus on myself, because, in that drive, a lot of times you're so driven by the goal and success, you forget about you. And that's what happened to me. I forgot about me. I forgot about taking care of LaShondra. So I took about 8 or 9 months or so, to just do that. And I came back in November of 2020 and have been rocking and rolling ever since. I was able to find my lane. I was able to figure out, things that I needed to give up to others, because at the end of the day, they were just better at it than me. These young folks that are coming in here, man, they're so quick, they're so fast, and they have more efficient ways of doing certain things. And I think prior to stepping away, you would have to pry things from my cold, dead hands to get me to allow people to help me, And so I really had to learn and understand how to delegate better, how to utilize all the great talent around me. So that was a huge lesson that I learned sort of being away and coming back, seeing all the wonderful changes that have been made. You know, things are so much more efficient. Everything is running so well. And I think that just me letting go and allowing all this wonderful talent that we've gathered over the years do their thing, that's where it's at. And so if you're ever considering, opening up yourself and being transparent with your staff and allowing others to sort of take over things that you feel like can't survive without you. Now, typically, if you feel like something can't happen without you, that's the very reason why you should let it go, because that's just not true. It's just not the truth. It's the lie that we tell ourselves because our ego doesn't allow us to let it go, because we're defining our worth by what we do. Now, that's the key thing that I discovered in my time away, is that my worth and value was not in what I did. My worth and my value was in who I am and how I show up and just being. And that was the biggest lesson that I learned. So now nothing stays on my desk. The minute it gets on my desk, I delegate that bad mama jamma right on out, because I've paid my dues. I'm done with the doing. Now it's time for me to be, not to effort, but to allow all of my drive and hard work do what it's supposed to do, which is be a platform for others, allow others to find their greatness through the work that I've done over the years. And now I have time to do this podcast. Now I have time to write a book. Now I have time to be the soccer mom on my son's soccer team. Now I have time to harass my oldest son about his next steps in life and lecture him every other time he calls me. He acts like he doesn't like it, but he really does. Now I have time to really build that foundation for my daughter. And I would have never had that time had I not stepped away. So burnout is a clear indication that it's time for you to do something else. It's time for you to move on, because you have to grow. Anything that stays stagnant spoils and dies. You cannot run your business solely forever on what got you there. That's only going to take you so far. And as a founder, as an entrepreneur, a leader, a manager, a boss, whatever you call yourself, at some point, you're going to have to reinvent yourself, and you're going to have to figure out what is the next stage for your purpose, because it's not going to be the same every day, all day. You've got to grow. You've got to learn. And you've got to have that drive and that courage to give it all up, to start all over. That's what life is all about. That's what business is about. You should always be thinking about, how am I going to reinvent myself? How am I going to be more innovative? How am I going to do more by efforting less? That is the key. And if you find yourself efforting, pushing, and burning out, then that's a clear indication it's time to move on. So I'm going to wrap this session up with just a little bit of advice of how to find your inspiration and your drive. And I know it's difficult, but it can start with the smallest thing. It can start with an idea. It can start with a thought. It can start with an emotion. It could start with a feeling of something more than where you currently are. And the goal is to just put one foot in front of the other and just move and keep moving and keep moving, and never let anything stand in your way, because fear is for suckers and it is not real. It's what we make up in our head. And other people's opinions and their no's and you can't and you shouldn't is their opinion. And those opinions are none of your damn business. So don't worry about it. Just keep moving, do your thing, and know that you have the potential to be great and have success. And whatever success means to you is what it is. And that's the goal. And never lose sight of that. Drive is a flow, and you need to allow yourself to go with it. At some points, it may be heightened and peaking, and at others, you will feel burnout, searching for meaning. And all of that is okay. It's all normal. That's how it's supposed to be. The key is to continuously reinvent yourself, your goals and your visions, and to surround yourself with people who inspire you. These two things will allow you to stay in the drive mode consistently and will lead to great results. Success is subjective, and your personal sense of success is the only measurable of your achievement. This, in return, will inspire others, which will continue fueling your drive even more. So, thank you for joining me, and keep driving, keep succeeding, keep persevering. I believe in you because I believe in me. This is a series about entrepreneurship, leadership, and success that I have found in the construction industry. If you want to hear more and you want to be a part of our community, follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our newsletter on our LinkedIn profile. If you want to share your thoughts after listening to this episode, feel free to drop a line in our LinkedIn podcast post. Thanks for listening, and we will connect next month.